What's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you. Listen, before you even get started, I want you to do me a favor. If you're watching this on anything else other than YouTube, there's a link right below. Go to youtube.com/@accesskevin. I would love it if first you hit like on this video, then subscribe to this video, hit the bell so you can be notified of all the upcoming episodes. I've got amazing guests that are coming up. And also, you can take a look back at the 280 some other episodes that I've done in the last couple of years. This show would not be available if it wasn't for 5-Star Guitars. So, an amazing company based right here in Oregon. If you're interested in playing guitar or you want accessories, you want lessons, anything like that, go to 5starguitars.com/allaccesslive. Everything you see there, you're going to have discounts. And if you hit the promo code of allaccess15 at the end, you're going to get 15% off. And the bonus is that if you order from outside the area, there's no sales tax. So you save so much money, and then you can be a huge rock star like a bunch of my guests. So go to youtube.com/@accesskevin. Make sure you subscribe to the video. Now, this is going to be one of the most fun episodes I think you've ever seen on this show. I'll tell you why. Because we got on here late. I was chatting with my guest even before we got started because he's got so much going on. The dude just landed last night. He's got these activities going. He just came back from Cancun where he was at The Sands as a special guest DJ. He's got a big event coming up on Wednesday, and he just launched a new movie. So let's hear him talk about it. All the way from Los Angeles, I've got Efren Ramirez. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, what's up?
It's E-Man.
That's it's funny. That's what they would call me at the raves when I would do raves in Los Angeles.
Yeah, E-Man, is that DJ E-Man? Do you have a special DJ name?
Well, I mean, I had a rave company, and we were called Nocturnal Rampage, and
Okay.
so the guys who do all the big EDC events, Pasquale actually taught my partners and me how to do raves, and so we would rent out an old theater in downtown Los Angeles called the Orion, and we would have about like good 15,000, 20,000 people. And it was Nocturnal Rampage, and they knew me as E-Man because it was my event, and I was like, for us, we were much more of an electronic band. We just wanted to jam,
Yeah.
and but people would hire us for like opening acts or closing acts, and we wanted to be like, how do we become the main act? And so we said, dude, why don't we just throw our own raves, do our own events, and we did. So,
own it.
Yeah, so we did just that. But at the same time, I was studying acting, and I was working slowly as an actor. And then it's once at some point, the rave company started to really grow. I ended up booking Napoleon Dynamite, and that just changed everything forever.
Did it help your music career?
It became something else because I was studying music and I was studying acting, and I started to really get involved with both. But acting felt more prominent because there was a union,
Yeah, right.
pension and health,
right.
And I think since I was little, I had much more passion of acting because I was able I enjoyed hiding with all the characters I've played so far.
Yeah,
that was like my forte. There's much more of a privacy to that as opposed to when you're DJing, you really are playing music for the masses.
Yeah.
And that's something else.
You're exposed, right? I mean, unless you've got like a massive like mouse hat on or a marshmallow on your head.
Yeah, I'm gonna have like a tequila bottle on my head.
Yes, man. Yeah.
DJ Tequila in the house. Yeah.
DJ Mezcal. Well, dude, I saw some clips online of you a long time ago playing harmonica with some blues band jam. So you play a few different instruments besides just spinning tables and.
Yeah, I play guitar. I'm learning how to play the violin, but I do play harmonica.
Okay. Is that an Ibanez behind you, by the way?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I have my classic guitar here. I mean, I'm like a nerd. It's funny. I have a twin brother, and my brother was sort of like the MVP in soccer and cross country, and hung out with the popular guys, and I was the dude who like wore all black, was totally into The Cure, Nine Inch Nails, The Cult, Susie and the Banshees, and Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
Flock of Singles. And I was a member of the chess club drama club, book club, Christian service club. Is there
Wow.
anything nerdy? I was
Yeah, man.
yeah. So that was my life.
And this is in LA?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Born and raised in Los Angeles. Yeah.
You mentioned uh as acting was kind of like an opportunity for you to hide. So growing up and doing all these activities in school, right? I mean, I was a clarinetist, right, in the early band too, and I was into a lot of maybe the less popular activities, than all the big jocks and were. I grew up in Montana too, so I was this long haired dude who didn't quite fit into that scene, right? But
Wait. Where in Montana? Where?
Bozeman, you
Oh
were just
yeah,
you were just in Missoula, right? Didn't you just
dude.
play?
We were in just Great Falls,
Oh,
Missoula, and then we went to Idaho Falls.
yeah, but well, so yeah, my the mother of my children's there in Great Falls, and I think her step daughter was at your event in Great Falls this weekend. So,
Oh wow.
I didn't know that until just before we went live, and this is crazy because I knew that you and John have been going out and you've been doing this tour as an anniversary thing for Napoleon Dynamite, right?
Yeah, yeah. We'll go into a little bit about that. But literally, it's John Heater who played
Yeah.
Napoleon, John Grice who played Uncle Rico, and I. We do this tour all over the nation where we go up on stage and we do a whole musical number. Grice is playing. He's playing the guitar.
Okay.
Heater is playing the keyboards, and I'm playing the harmonica.
Nice.
And we have created songs to perform on stage as an introduction and a very ending of the show. But within that show, we do a whole big Q&A with people. We could see the audience dressed up as all the characters.
No way.
And we reenact some of the scenes. Sometimes we'll pick a kid up and they play tetherball against John Heater. And then
Really?
I've literally built a time machine. I took it apart already. And then we have a whole laser effect and display. It's a whole spectacle of a show
Wow.
where everyone is involved. And I think this year alone, we did 30 cities, and next year we're doing about 40.
No
And it's
kidding.
all over the country. And it's people. There's some of the theaters actually rent out a llama. So
No, Tina.
and they serve tater tots. I mean, it's
Oh my God.
bonkers, man. And when you're on stage, I mean, it's so much, So yeah.
It's a cover. It's a cultural icon. I see, Chuck Coverly in the chat. So people are complaining because you and I are doing this chat while the Chiefs and the Eagles are playing Monday Night Football.
Oh no,
So-
they're playing. Oh.
So we were just talking about this, right? Like, so we were in some of the activities in school that maybe weren't the more popular activities. Everybody else is doing homecoming, football dance, and we're playing clarinet and harmonica and chess club, right? So
And of course, that's why this happened.
there was no accident, Chuck. That's why we're here. So the cultural thing, it's crazy, dude. Even promoting this, right? I have this title, Alexis Live welcomes Napoleon Dynamite's Efren Ramirez. You've done so much more than Napoleon Dynamite, so I do not mean to diminish your career by any means. I think you and I both know that it's a nice caveat to get people in the door to understand things like, other movies and other things like the brand new movie that you just had come out, Hispanic Satanics, right?
It's well, I mean, gosh, so there's one film. It's a horror film called Satanic Hispanic.
Okay.
Directed by Mike Mendes, and that's out. It just came out on all platforms now. It was out in theaters for Halloween in October.
Okay.
But at the same time, I have another film with one of the actors from Twilight, Kellen Lutz, and it's called Do Justice, and it comes out on Friday where I play Detective Santiago. I'm a cop, and Kellen Lutz plays an ex-Marine who gets tested on seeking vengeance upon the death of his family. So, and that's where Jeff Fahey, the actor from Lost, Lawnmower Man and Lost, he's in the mix, and it becomes much more deeper than what we think it is.
Okay.
So, and the reason why I could explain this much of the stories because I've been doing press all day today, and tomorrow I'm doing, because I'm bilingual. and like all day was all English, and tomorrow it's gonna be all in Spanish. I'm like,
Oh,
bring it.
well,
So,
well, dude, we're 10 minutes into this thing. Why don't you just start the whole thing over again, but just give it back to me in Spanish? Is that
uh,
cool? Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, no. I have seen actually some short interviews that you've done though in Spanish, and I think somebody in one of those comments talked about how great it was that they have a Latino actor representing, all these different facets, music and theater, because you're sort of you've been formally trained in theater. It's not like you just walked in and decided that you were going to be an actor one day after the harmonica career didn't get you where you wanted to go. So tell me a little bit about your acting, the beginning of that.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, like even in my last interview, uh, prior to Napoleon Dynamite, I was working on a play written by John Patrick Shanley. It was called Danny and the Deep Blue Sea.
Okay.
And it's a very heavy drama. And so, when you're a beginning actor, you just want to be very dramatic, and you want to like, I want to be taken as a serious actor.
Sure.
So you put on this persona, and the trueness of acting itself is to remove any idea you have about acting, and to trust not only your imagination but the writer's intent to find character's purpose and live through that moment to moment.
Okay.
Now, mind you, if all my teachers heard me talking right now, they would say, "Right on, son." So,
Yeah. But
and that truly is it. And I found comedy in drama, and that's what life truly is about. So it so happens that I ended up doing Napoleon Dynamite, and then like 20 years later, I was doing a play called In a Forest Dark and Deep by Neil LaBute. It's about a relationship between a brother and sister, and having to not only deal with the murder, but their historical trauma they had gone through as kids. So and I for some reason I find myself drawn to characters who go through some struggles of identity and trying to find a voice, their inner voice. So because I was having a difficult time in finding and doing that play, it so happens that this film, Do Justice, came into my hands. And it's like you find it's like a cop movie, and you go, oh, okay, it's vengeance and let's solve the crime. But I found something deeper with every single character, even my character, Detective Santiago, who's having some form of identity crisis. He doesn't know where he wants to go and what everything he knows to be in life.
Yeah.
Unlike a character like Kellen Lutz, who's the ex-Marine, where everything is so perfect for him, and when everything breaks, now he's tested, and now we have to face each other. And then we find the villain in the story, which is played by Jeff Fahey, and it becomes something else. So the third act becomes something even greater. Which I believe the story is unfinished, because you're left at odds end with all characters, wondering what's going to happen next.
You bring out the identity crisis component. I don't think you and I talked about this when we first met. I'm going to back up a little bit. Like, this was really cool. You and I met back in July at Pershing Square in LA. We had this really cool event where Flock of Seagulls and When in Rome were doing this big event, and you were there as a guest host to introduce When in Rome. You walked up after the show and you're like, give me great compliments about my drumming and about A Flock of Seagulls. And I was blown away by how into that show you were. But the identity crisis component, that's where this program that came from. I mean, the whole concept of this podcast was that we were stuck at home during the pandemic, just like everybody else, right? And as musicians and actors and anybody that's a creative component or creative artist, when what we did was stripped away for a time being, where what we did, our identity was to go out and perform for people. When that was stopped, you had to look inside and find out, okay, is what we do really who we are? And the idea that you and I could have a conversation, we could hang out as if we were backstage. This is the real stuff, right? I mean, this is the kind of stuff where you and I backstage at Pershing Square or in Archie's ice cream truck, or when we're hanging out in these little places, right? Where we can get beyond the superficial. We can talk beyond just the surface stuff that a lot of people get up front.
Like the
And
performance level, right?
yeah,
Or it just
right.
becomes a performance, and then nobody really talks about like what's behind
Yeah,
the face of the clock
yeah.
per se. Yeah.
And it's a great experiment for all of us, for a lot of musicians that I've had on the show. We've talked about this. Like, so if music goes away, who are you? Right? If your opportunity to perform on stage is gone, where do you go? Who do you become? And do you find other ways to be creative and express yourself, or do you hole up and wither away? And I think part of both of those states happened for me and for a lot of other musicians I know. We weren't quite sure. We had to really to dig deep. Um, you have so many different facets, right? So as a musician, as an actor, you kind of dealt with some of this recently, right? You had the writer's strike, and at this point, you and other actors that I know were out there on the picket line, right? You had to really fight for the rights that you so deserve. You mentioned that there's a union, so tell me a little bit about your involvement with union and what it meant to you as an actor when the writer's strike was in play.
There's an interesting thing with my last tour with Napoleon Dynamite that I had with these guys. We were up in Montana, and there's something that I really didn't learn were these two explorers, Lewis and Clark. And I went, so when Heater told me, you know about Lewis and Clark, and I go, yeah, Lois and Clark, Superman, duh.
Oh
Like,
no!
stupid idiot. You know, Sasa Kajawea, right?
Oh,
Sacagawea.
Sacagawea.
Sacagawea. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, is that I blame my school or maybe my learning because I was too busy listening to Cure albums. I don't know.
Right.
On the beach,
Right.
at the sea. So or Depeche Mode, right? Violator. So or Flock of Seagulls because they kept on running. So 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 for me to be able to go to the museum at Great Falls, learning about these explorers, I was like, yeah, that's what we artists are, explorers. That even though for me, once we hit the strike in the industry, I had to ask myself, well, so now what? Now what do I do? I I have to continue exploring
Hmm.
because every year, I mean, the idea is to work on 2 or 3 projects, and you're good. Um, I have to really give myself some time to really think not only where I've come from, how far I've gone, but where I want to go for the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life as an artist,
Yeah.
as a human being. Like, what does it mean? And what effect am I having with people who are watching the results of what I do? And am I the only one? Because you feel alone sometimes. You feel lonely, and you really have to question the meaning of actual existence.
Yeah.
What is my purpose as an artist, right? Well, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be alive, especially now when
Yeah.
things are so hot, and how technology is able to not only connect us but can be used to manipulate us in such a way where it alters our way of thinking. And you got to be able to really decipher on your own what is actual fact, so that you can make great decisions, you can make good decisions, the best decisions, that will allow you to not only grow but move you forward and have people grow as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much to that.
So, to that end, you're out touring, you're doing the Napoleon Dynamite tour. The writer's strike is going on during this time, right? So other friends of
Yeah.
mine had mentioned that as they are doing press and they're in their social media environments and that kind of thing, they're not labeling the pieces that they were a part of, right? They were talking about the plays or the movies that they were in because of the fact that the compensation was not being there for the actors and the writers.
Well, I gotta say to that is that as artists, we are like really big kids and little kids, like my neighbor's kids. One's 6 years old, the other one's 4 years old, um, and I was giving them stuff that I got from the Great Falls Museum, that they were so involved themselves in, like a telescope and a compass and a map and a couple of other things from the museum, and they were so drawn to it so much. And for us as artists, all we want to do is explore these new things that maybe perhaps we could help create something and invent something new.
Yeah.
So when the strike happened, you know, the studios and the unions are like parents. They're like mom and dad, and no kid wants to see their mom and dad fight.
Right.
You know, we like it when they work together, so that in turn we as artists can work to all of us together, so we could really give something out to the audience for them to enjoy, like whether it be a new song or a new movie. You know, it's what we love to do. We want to be able
Sure.
to connect people together. So, and for me, while the strike happened, when I was here in Los Angeles, I would go to the studios and I would talk, and I would join the strike. I would join some of my fellow actors and talk about the strike, talk about how it not only affects all of us, but say that, you know what, we're all in this together, because I do believe in fairness, do believe in unity, and I do believe that we can all work together. I mean, we may have differences of opinions, but that's okay, you know. But we have to be able to be fair to every single worker, you know, from the powers that be to the person who's working as an extra on a project. Why not? You know, I think there should be something justified for everybody who's involved.
Well, you know, and I would imagine it'd be difficult to sort of paint a broad stroke, but I mean, equity from top to bottom would be very difficult, right? Because the studio owners, the big corporations that own the massive movie companies, compensation is probably not going to be the same from there to the gaffer, you know, that's down on an independent film. But do you feel like, because now that the strike ended about a week and a half ago, do you feel like enough resolution was made that you can envision some equity kind of showing up?
Well, I think because of technology entering the industry, that's going to be new for all of us.
Yeah.
To figure out how to tell stories, even with music. Here's a perfect example, and we'll go with music. There's a total, because I'm a DJ, and
Yeah.
you know, it's like there's a difference between listening to a specific song on vinyl as opposed to when it's on digital.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
you hear it right away.
Yeah.
You know, or let's go even further. Listening it to on vinyl as opposed to listening to it live. When it's
Yeah.
live, you're in that moment. You can
Yeah.
really hear the percussions, right?
Thank
to
you.
the vocals, right? And everything else that supports the melody of the song. And it makes you feel a specific way on that specific story of that song. You know, so with artificial intelligence, it should, what's important is that that we all need to understand is that it can help the story, but it should never replace the story.
Sure.
It should never replace the artist, because we only connect to people who identify with people.
Sure.
You know, and that's truly is it. That's what we get from theater. You know, if we remove that away, then what do we got? Something that's
Right.
processed. You know, and anything that's truly processed is not is insignificant to the trueness of humanity.
Sure.
And the connection of what becomes tribal that defines us as people.
Yeah. You know, as a designer too, I'm a designer, web designer. I've got a web company, and some of my acquaintances and contemporaries they're concerned about design elements being replaced by AI too. And we've all had the discussion that it can help, it can supplement, it should never replace, because first of all, artificial intelligence is going to be there regardless, whether you like it or not, right? So if you can figure out a way to embrace it and make it creative and your own, then it can certainly help. It'll, the serenity prayer is constantly in my mind, man. The things that are outside your control, we cannot control, right? That
Correct.
it's going to be there, but you can choose to know the difference between what you can and can't. And if you use it for powers of good. So whether it's, in filmmaking or design or development or any of those kind of things, there's certainly a lot that you can do as a benefit. When I was talking more about the acting, the strike, I was wondering if you felt like the resolution that they got was actually legitimate, that you really will see a positive thing, or do you feel like there was, that the lawyers kind of caved and felt like they sacrifice the integrity of the writers and the actors just to put it away.
Well, I mean, as we all know, in any form of negotiations, there's got to be some form of compromise.
Sure.
And the question is, who has the leverage?
Yeah.
And at some point, I believe, as the strike kept on going day after day, the unions started to have a lot more leverage than studio execs. You know, maybe perhaps it would have been beneficial if we had waited a few more weeks, at the cost of all of us, because we understand we all want to work and we love doing what we do, but you know, the question not only is about artificial intelligence, but when it comes to the unions, with this whole thing with the strike, it's also something that we are facing now, which is all of the streaming. A lot of people, remember, the majority, about 90%, I think, say that they don't work and make about $25,000. So you got to reach $25,000 for the whole year just to get some pension and health. So, and my concern is about that. You know, for people who don't reach that, now, like we must think about people like that. We must think about everybody who's involved and give them a fair share so that they could have some kind of standard form of living. You know, that cannot be neglected. You know, so and right now, for these past 15, 20 years, we are facing streaming, and streaming is a whole new ballgame into the world of the internet. You know, we started thinking about the technology era, but now we're in the information era, and the information that's being passed along, like, how does that get divided? And I don't think, I myself personally think that wasn't thoroughly thought out, and I think it has to be something that needs to be sound, because it's here for life. Not only are the streaming platforms, but like an example, when I'm on the flights, people are watching the movies on their phones. I mean, the idea is the dream for every cinematic directors to have their film. You want to see a Scorsese film like at the theater with those sounds and the darkness, and experiencing it with people who really appreciate the making of a movie. But the freedom is that they have options to be able to watch it anywhere and every platform they want. And that's cool too. You know, but for the people who are a part of putting out a product like that, I think they should get some kind of share to that. And I think that should be honored. So I think the fact that the contracts are I believe for 2 or 3 years, I think 3 years, you know, we're all going to be trying to figure it out and see what the results will be like. And we're going to be facing this in 2026 and see where we can take it from there. So who knows? I
mean, the wait and see thing is certainly what we have to see across the board. I mean, you look at streaming early on with music, you know, when Lars Ulrich from Metallica, you know, was bitching about Napster, and that really was the forefront of that, right? This
LimeWire, right?
Napster was his first thing.
Napster, right?
Napster, and people laughed at it outside. You know, if they weren't musicians, if they weren't creatives that were expecting to have royalties paid to, you know, for the records that they produce, you know, people thought, well, why shouldn't I be able to get that for free? But you know,
honor the artist, please.
That was the mentality, right? A lot of people felt like that, and I you know, I mean, but the wait and see thing, we can see how it affected people over time, and people had to adapt. Musicians had to realize that the only way they're really going to make a living is to tour, you know, or get licensing and certain things that they can get royalties from. But you mentioned the Scorsese film. You've seen Killers of the Flower Moon? You saw it?
I've been wanting to watch Killers of the Flower Moon, The Killers with Fassbender. And well, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm more excited about watching everybody else's film. People are like, what about your movies? I'm like, you know, I don't want to see myself.
I get it. Well,
it feels weird. You know?
Well, okay, so I just I saved Fassbender's movie for my flight to Manila tomorrow. I'm going to the Philippines, and I've got a couple of things in the queue, but I did catch Killers of the Flower Moon last week. And that was a perfect example. You mentioned people wanted to see a Scorsese film. Man, you can't watch that on your phone. You cannot watch that in a way that is not absolutely consuming and enveloping, right, with the sound.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dating a gal who's really focused on sound. That's one of the things that she loves the most. And so we've seen some incredibly profound movies, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer's 1, 2, that visually it was so impressive. But if you focus just on the sound of these films, and that's the way Killers of the Flower Moon was to me, it was so powerful that the goosebump moments were what you heard. And it was so beautifully designed in sound that I can't picture it coming off, Netflix or, Prime or whatever. I can't imagine seeing that on a tiny little device and feeling the same power,
That's the absolute, we think about making a picture and we think, it's easy making a movie, but if you strip everything away, it truly is like for the actor in every scene, not only the words that you say, but the words that you don't say.
Yeah.
And when you go to the cinema and you're really engaged into the dialogue between two characters, you're living within that realm and that world. It becomes very engulfing. That's why when you mentioned Oppenheimer,
yeah,
I was enraptured by the artistry of the work.
Yeah.
That the Nolan brothers always present. So I can't wait for Scorsese. That's what did, for instance, Kubrick, his work, or Cassavetes, for instance, for that matter. Or David Fincher, like these really fine Paul Thomas Anderson, these fine directors, really have an understanding, of Guillermo del Toro, know how to really tell and these stories in such a profound way, not only through sound but the vision. Right. It becomes something that you want to, a masterpiece that you want to collect and hold and remember. And say, I experienced that in that moment. So,
okay, I'm going to compare this then to the piece that I saw, your audition tape for Napoleon.
It's out there somewhere.
Oh, it is. Somebody actually shared your audition tape. There's an audition tape with.
What? How?
Yeah, I was gonna download it and share that on here. If you're out there, you'll see it. It's on YouTube. I did some digging to find some of your early work. And you had this. You had the concept of breath when you did that audition. You obviously knew the dialogue. You'd memorized the script well enough, or at least it felt right to you. But I noticed that what really captured it for me, because of course, like everybody else, I love Napoleon Dynamite, an amazing movie, really, profound movie for that era. But your audition, there was breath. Your response, there was there were poignant places for pause, and your eyes. You did this look where you kept doing a side eye. You'd look back up at the person reading the script with you.
Yeah.
And I was so glad to find that and know that these are your first takes, right? When you're doing those auditions, it's not like you get a take after take after take. I mean, you've got to do that first take. And this was you exhibiting that true character. You embodied it. The accent was so strong, right? I mean, you really like Pedro Sanchez was, he was, like just, growing up in Montana, right? Because I think the film was based in Idaho, right?
Yeah.
And it really felt like that, like the small little farm town where you've got the cool kids and the jocks, and then you got some of the outcasts. And I've seen you talk about that film too, about the importance of friendship and having each other's back. You also talk and discuss a lot in metaphor. I noticed that even just here, metaphor is used a lot in your comparing. And so when you go back and you look at your early acting, did you feel like some of that was natural to you, or did you really study the art of breath and interaction that way?
There was a school I went to. It was a conservatory program. One of my professors, who I still speak to today, her name is Laura Henry, and it was a Meisner Conservatory program. To this day, I've gone to so many different acting schools, even to Playhouse West, to Stella Adler, Uta Hagen, Strasberg, Improv. And one of my breath classes I had was by Jean-Louis Rodrigue. And he was amazing when it came to breath work. And I also took Linklater and the Alexander technique, and you really have an understanding, a physiological state of understanding of dimensions of characters. And it's funny because after 2.5 years, my professor said, "Now that you know this, you're not going to be really good at it till about 10 years from now." What? Like, what does this mean? I've gone through this madness. Why, God, why? So, but and I don't know if you see that in the tape or not, but there was a moment when I did a scene with the director, like we were talking about it, where I'm doing the whole speech, and maybe it's not in the audition, where, and I think it was my very first scene that I did at the audition, and it's when I go and to give my speech, my final speech, and I say, well, I don't have much to say, but if you vote, and I remember the director stopping me, and he said slower, and I thought, okay, cool, maybe I was a bit nervous, which I think I was, and I thought, all right, so I did it slower, and then he stopped me again. He said slower, and I thought, you know, is there something wrong with Pedro? And but when he said that, there was there was sort of like a childlike identity with Pedro, where he's not only curious, but he truly leads with hope beyond his own identity, um, and and because of that, my voice started to go a little higher, and then I started to play him like this or something, and then and that became something else. And even when I booked the job, I wasn't so sure. Still had doubt until I met John Heater in my first day on set, because he had the moon boots and the glass and the big hair.
Yeah.
He was like, "Hey, Pedro." I'm like, "Why is he squinting? We're indoors." So I was like, then I met, John Grice and, Laszlo from Real Genius. I was like, dude, Monster Squad. And I saw him as Uncle Rico and Chandrella as La Fonda. And then Kip, jeez. And I started to really see the world of, and I was like, all right, I'm in a safe place. And the director who wrote it with his wife, Jerusha, I felt like, okay, maybe this can become something. Who knows what the results are going to be? But I had there was a sincere touch with all the characters and the stories of Napoleon, and the story of Napoleon Dynamite. And I thought, maybe this can be something else, something beyond.
Did you picture it being the impact that it was, that it has been?
I think I mean, to start off, we were big fans of the film itself.
Yeah.
Because after we would do a scene and we kind of quote it, my favorite was Kip, and he was like, "That's your mom goes to college," or "That's what I'm talking about." Like, this guy is so, or Lyle. You're like, dude, who is this guy? So, um, and and so we were fans of it ourselves, but
Yeah.
it was only when it entered the Sundance Film Festival, and there was, I think it was our first night, and there was a buzz about Napoleon Dynamite already. We were the knuckleheads, the ding dongs who were like passing out the vote for Summer buttons, vote for Pedro buttons, and like people were wondering who we were.
You did this at Sundance?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And so when we got to the theater it was like a Saturday night, one of the big houses that sits about like 3,000 people, there was a huge line of people wanting to get in. And we thought like, whoa, what is this? And by the time when we walked into the theater, it was already a full house. So the people who were waiting in line were just trying to get a ticket to get in.
For your show.
Yeah. And we're like, we were all nervous on the result, but the first 5 minutes, just having to see Napoleon come out of his house and wait for the school bus, the audience were right away they connected to the understanding of that world and the exploration of who he was, and it just became a snowball effect from the studios who picked it up, and then when it was released into theaters, and it just got bigger and bigger, not only nationwide but all around the world. And I was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
this is cool, man. Yeah.
I mean, you do the metaphor comparison thing a lot, right? You're thinking about music. It's interesting to me to see the reaction that certain people around the world take to bands, right? So some bands in the US, they're nothing, right? But you go to Japan and they're everything, or vice versa. You know, A Flock of Seagulls was way bigger in the US, even though they were from Liverpool, right? And the band really took off opening for the Police back in '81. That was where everything blew up for them. And it's cool to go back to the UK with the band now and do these shows and have them, you know, you play smaller venues and they'll say, oh, but back in America, you guys can do these huge gigs. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting, right? But I would imagine you've probably seen Napoleon, the impact you've had in Europe, in Asia, you know, with subtitles. You know, I wonder how, you know, some of this translates with subtitles, but it's brilliant writing. And the casting is, I can't imagine any of the other characters, you know, as with a different actor. It doesn't seem like it would ever work. But
Yeah, I know there are a few other names that were thought about for some of the other roles, and I know even John Heder told me that there are a few other characters, I mean actors, who are auditioning for Pedro.
no,
But they said that when you walked in, they saw it,
yeah,
and I hadn't seen it because it's like I was a young actor just really trying to not only get a job but do the best I could for that story. You
yeah.
know.
Yeah, Johnny Depp would never have been the right guy, dude. You know that.
Yeah, although I met him, and
Yeah.
he was the coolest mofo. He was like, oh yes, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Napoleon Dynamite. And I was like, hey Johnny, how you doing?
yeah. Well, he's a fellow musician too, man. He gets it,
Yeah.
right? So my buddy's been playing with Alice Cooper forever and you know, Hollywood Vampires, and he loves being in a band with Johnny Depp. He just said he's the coolest cat. So
Well, that's from him to Benicio del Toro to even Jeff Bridges. You know.
yeah.
You know, it's for me, after Napoleon Dynamite, I met so many great actors and directors and writers who were who gave me some advice and were some influence to how I work. You know, I mean, I was at the Sundance Film Festival one year, and I was sitting in between Steve Buscemi and Daniel Day-Lewis, and
Oh,
I'm
wow.
talking about the industry and I'm talking about the work. Like who could fathom that? And I thought, like,
Yeah.
this is such an opportunity for me. Like, what questions do I have so that I could take with me and put it into my work? You know, but still, like even as when I DJ, for instance, when I DJ, if I'm playing like a college event, it's much more top 40 and the latest hip hop and some electro. You know, I'll bring in some old school, or like, you know, like when I was down in Mexico, DJing, it's all music that I love. When I'm DJing, I'm gonna mix genres all the time.
Yeah.
Mixing persons with Busta Rhymes.
Oh,
You know,
nice.
I'll put Depeche Mode with Lady Gaga. You know,
Nice.
I'll put Flock of Seagulls with The Weeknd. What?
Nice.
So
Yeah. I
yeah,
see it.
people are like, how do you do that? But because y- I have an understanding of music,
Yeah.
and I love music and I love melodies, and I love how not only can it play music for the crowd and they could really connect to it, but sort of surprise them and take them into a journey that they can experience for the hours time that I can play. So
Let's go into that then, man. Let's talk about Cancun and the Sands, brother. That's you and I talked about this a couple months ago, and I had gone. I think this may have been like year 7 that they've had the event. It started off in Dominican Republic back in like 17, I think, or 16 maybe, and they had a couple years in Punta Cana. Then they moved to Cancun. They've moved around to a couple of different venues. Steve Robinson, the guy that put that whole thing together, just works tirelessly all year long. It's an incredible. It's a behemoth amount of work that he does to get this thing to. He gets the facility, he gets all the activities, he gets the artists and the performers and the actors and all the special guests that are there, tries to please everybody. There's no way you can, but he does a damn good job trying. When he was putting together this year's event, and you and I were talking right after we met, I thought, oh my God, you're on this tour with John Heder going out and promoting Napoleon Dynamite. What a perfect time, because the Sands had been all 80s in the Sand, and then they started to transition into some of the 90s as well, between
Yeah.
acting and the music. It was a perfect conduit for you. And so when I paired you and Steve up and I was trying to explain, hey, look, not only are you a pretty face, you know, like, but you've got a killer skill set. I mean, what a great opportunity. So you guys made it happen. I wasn't able to be there, right? I was on tour. So you got to tell me, man, what was your experience at the Sands?
Well, first of all, I do want to say again, thank you very much for making that happen.
Dude,
Connecting us was serendipitous in such a way that what's surprising, as I said before, they went to DR, and then they went from there. They moved it to Cancun, Mexico.
Yeah.
And when they moved to Cancun, Mexico, they moved it into Planet Hollywood. And
Yeah.
so I think, on behalf of Steven, I'm sure there was a bit of doubt because he had never seen me DJ. He had never seen my performance. So knowing the fact that he's hiring me as a DJ, he's like, okay, is he gonna train wreck this? Is he gonna be
Right.
like, this?
Because some people
destroy this
have.
event? I know celebrities who have, and I'm like,
Yeah.
rule number one as a DJ, don't hurt your audience.
Yeah.
You give them what they want.
Yeah.
So for me, being able to be invited to go in there as a celebrity DJ, I had to ask myself, like, what am I getting myself into? What is this about? What can I offer as an artist and as a DJ with the man steel skills, So, and so, first of all, as a DJ, I had to put all my songs together.
Yeah.
And go, all right. So now that I'm going to Mexico with about like 600 songs,
Yeah.
like, what am I gonna play?
Yeah. Trim the fat.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I know everybody has a specific position to fill in a specific amount of time, and I thought, in my case, because it was such rarity, first of all, it's happening in Planet Hollywood, and if people don't know, Planet Hollywood has a nostalgia for 80s and 90s films.
Yeah.
So it was perfect, like the perfect place to have the Sandy Rocks, right? Event. So what I decided to do was to spend time with people there from the VIPs to the general admission to even the people who worked at the hotel.
Nice.
I got along with everyone, and they're like, why are you doing this? I go, well, first of all, I want to know what you like, and second of all, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And it became something else, not only for them but for me as well. So I found people who love those hair bands, from Scorpions to Def Leppard, right, to Guns N' Roses, to people who love Flock of Seagulls, the Human League, Depeche Mode, OMD.
Yeah.
And so it gave me to R&B, Stevie B, who's there. It's like the cover girls, some early Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna cater to since I only had an hour, I'm gonna give 20 minutes of this, 20 minutes of that, and 20 minutes of the other, but kind of mix in what would be attractive to the environment being in Cancun.
Nice.
It's like the beach. And
Yeah.
there day parties that was so much fun with all the pools and everybody meeting everybody from all over the world.
Yeah.
To like the night parties, which were very rambunctious, more dance. Having to see ABC perform, having to see Pat Benatar perform, having to see the Human League perform. Like that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
Wow. I was geeking out myself. Like,
Yeah.
like, this is amazing.
Well, that's your humility is incredible that way, man. It's nice to see and refreshing.
Oh yeah, funny enough, I spent a couple of days there, and I DJ'd the night away until my last day, because the following day I had to fly out to Montana. So I'm like in 85 degrees, with 100% humidity, to like, I don't know, 39 degrees and
Oh,
the freezing cold. And my
oh
friends
man.
were like, dude, you're 10. I'm like, yeah, I know. I just
you
came
were
back from Mexico.
you were prepping, man.
Yeah.
Oh, what a
Yeah.
nice break in between those things. I see some people are in the chat. Luke Robinson, he said, so great to see you in the sands. And Luke Durant, I was talking about design earlier. Luke is an amazing graphic designer. He's the actual he's the design director for Montana Outdoors magazine and my prior bass player. So and he's in Helena, Montana. So Luke, I'm glad you're here, man. You must have seen Efren when he was out there.
Oh, heck yes, man.
You know, so the deal in the sands, if people don't know, they should go check out thesands.rocks. You know, Efren did a great job of sort of wrapping up what that experience is like. It's a week-long, all-inclusive event, a whole bunch of tiers of ways that you can get lodging. The accommodations are awesome. The experience at that venue is so amazing, and they really do spoil the hell out of you. And then the music on top of it, it's every style of music from that era. So if you wanted to go and see Night Ranger or Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, or you wanted to go and see like a you know, the cover girls, you said, or you know, any like the R&B artists. And so every year it's different. Sometimes they bring back an artist that's been really successful in the past, but nobody goes away from that place with a negative experience. You know, you've all had it. They talk about being the greatest week of your life. And so go to thesands.rocks. You can check all that out. This is not a commercial endorsement for it. I just know that I've been, I think, to 5 of them. And if we're not playing on tour, I'm always going to be there because it's an experience you just don't want to miss. But let's go back to acting. I was just thinking of something, man. You were talking about.
Wait, hold on. I will say I did, because you know, since you're when you're DJing, especially 80s music, you really want to spend time with the song itself.
Yeah.
But I did do a mashup with Major Tom, right?
Yeah.
With Tequila.
Oh, really?
Really well. So, and I was like, oh, they're gonna love this, and they did.
Oh my God!
Because you're drinking in the pool during the daytime.
That's right. Music. That's a genius. I would not have thought of that mashup, man. But that's good.
Be lovers.
Oh my God, that's so good, man. Yeah. Are you are you, so you're, when you are using like Tractor, is that what you're using for software?
Dude,
no,
that's a mortal sin.
Okay, all right, I was gonna ask.
Because for those of you who are DJs,
yeah,
right, my older brothers were DJs, and they started off with Gemini turntables and a Newmark mixer, and then they moved on to from Newmark, they moved on to Techniques and Pioneer. So, and they did vinyl. And so when I was really little, I would carry crates of records, you know, for them as they DJ. And so I started to learn how to DJ, and I would mix. I know, for them it's a mortal sin, but I would mix LL Cool J with Depeche Mode.
Oh,
and I went, this is perfect. My brother's like, you never do that. And like to this day, everybody loves it.
Oh, that's
how that happened. So and what I do now, from vinyl to the Serato program to now flash drives on the CDJs, a true DJ not only knows the technique on how to DJ, but the equipment itself. And once you master that, now the last thing is know your music and know your audience.
Yeah.
And give them an experience that they could take home for the rest of their entire lives and go, man, that was such an event. And did you hear that music? Good. Because then you could do that every year.
Every year, yeah. Well, I know that people came away from the Sands loving the experience they had with you. You know, you were talking about actors and actresses. One of my favorite people on the planet, Amanda Wyss, was there with you, and I'm going to have her come back. She's been on the show before. She's an incredible actress. I mean, a lot of people know her from Better Off Dead and maybe from Friday the 13th, but I had told her that I was going to have you on, and she said Efren was the sweetest guy. She said she got a chance to talk to you there at the event. So nobody ever has anything negative to say about you that I've met so far. But but as far as actors and actresses go, because you were you know, you were formally trained, was there somebody early on in your formative years that you felt like, oh man, if I could achieve that greatness, was there an actor or actress that you just felt like that? And I know that's a hard question, but maybe 2 or 3 if you want, like some people that inspired you.
That's a pretty deep question. So, okay. There are two things with that question. The first one would be a director like Kubrick,
Okay.
because he was so meticulous with his
Yeah.
shots and he's so detailed. You do take after take, but he's trying to get that specific moment. For
Yeah.
me, look, I know people know David Fincher's like that too, where he wants to get that one take. I don't mind exploring that character and that life because that's where you're at. That's what acting is about. Even as a band, when you're creating a new song, you have a drum beat, for instance, right? And you go, no, no, what if I change the drum beat into this? And it becomes something else. It
Totally.
changes everything. You think about Keith Richards, with the Rolling Stones, with that one riff, and he's like, that's it. And we're like, dude, and it becomes something of greatness.
Yeah.
So that's why any Kubrick film that you can watch, it's amazing. You think about Steven Spielberg and his exploration on telling a story. So they are the big influences for me. So for me, yeah, as an actor, I think about the actors of today that I get to experience and watch their films.
Yeah.
There's the intensity of Robert De Niro. There's the intensity of Leo
Yeah.
DiCaprio, who has done such great films.
Yeah.
To be able to allow themselves to free themselves into that world. And I say, you know what? There was an actor, Raul Julia, who
Oh,
when he was alive, he did such great, tremendous work. And
so
I look
intense.
at that and I honor that. And rather than having to find myself to divide myself away and put myself in a specific group, I say, let me be an artist and just recognize me as an actor,
Hmm.
and let me explore these characters. So, when I started out in the business, yeah, okay, so I was playing homie number two. I was like, what can I do with this role? Bully number five. And I go, all right. But when I did theater, whether I was doing Hamlet or I was playing Romeo and Juliet, playing Romeo, or doing a David Mamet play, I was living these characters, and I go, oh, I was seeing the world through the writer's eyes, and living in that moment, and gosh, I was crashing all the time. They would say everyone was great except you.
Really?
but
You're-
but I would get better. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Even when I did, there's something called the Spoon River Anthology, where Edgar Lee Masters wrote like monologues of these characters that invented or not, and you would pick these characters and live in those worlds. You would you would exercise the idea with your imagination and the analytical thought of character, trying to find their way on what they perceive to be true. So for me as an actor, when I get a project, whether it be a TV series or a film, I'm gonna live to the depths and the darkness of that character
Mm.
to find what moves them. Why?
Yeah.
So I have to ask that question. Why must we watch this film, or why must we watch this show? What is so poignant that made them want to find a way to breathe in such a way that changes their life? I mean, the idea is, there's a great philosopher who said, if you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. So why can't I do that with stories that I tell?
Love
So
it.
yeah.
I see in the chat, Dog Catcher says, learn the rules so you know when to break them. That sounds like something that is a very key lesson, right? In formal training of acting for sure.
Yeah.
You talked about some of these really powerful actors that just they were so intense that they affected you. Can you get lost in a movie still where in the story and in the acting, or are you so involved as an actor or a writer that you are critical in the piece?
Uh, Samuel Jackson said, it's funny how we as actors try to find the depth of characters and we tend to lose ourselves in them, but we forget how to come out of it.
Mm.
You have to really understand what that means. Um, for me, as an actor, one of the difficult things I find is playing characters who are lost, because because I don't want to say so in control of the world, but you have something to grab onto, and in some cases when you're playing a character who's completely lost, you truly have to let go and not only trust what that work is, but trust that your director can guide you through that journey, you know. And so every once in a while, I'll do a play that struggles with some understanding of life so that I know that I can exercise that muscle so that when I get a film like the Do Justice character, I play a detective from Seattle, you know, Seattle PD, who is just um, he's trying to do the right thing, and sometimes even that can be difficult. In life, we don't have all of the answers, you know, and when you have a really good director, you can trust that you're living in that moment and trust that you're going to be okay. And you know, when I was doing the press interviews earlier, somebody had asked me a question about that, and I sort of froze for a little bit, and I had to apologize because even though I shot the film about a year ago, it like instantly just came back to me, and
Really?
I got lost, and then I go, and then I had to step away from it to be able to objectively tell the story and go, that's what that is. So
What a win.
that happens sometimes, you know.
That's that's a win, bro. You God, you know, I think about as a, you know, as a musician too, sometimes it's hard for me to go to a concert and not focus on certain elements, right? Like I can't not watch the drummer or even the production. You know, if I look at a band that has everything put together and it's so well produced, you know, I kind of focus on that part instead of just letting myself get sucked into the music and the song.
Yeah.
But when I do, it's game changer for me, you know, really. So I feel like I can count on one hand probably the times where I was so affected by a band that I saw live like that. As somebody who's multifaceted as a musician, when's the last time that you saw a concert that just floored you? Maybe brought you to tears, or just you got such euphoria, butterflies that.
I'm glad that you asked me that question.
Besides the flock of seagulls. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, let's go with downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Just seeing When in Rome and seeing Flock of Seagulls and seeing Men at Work. Not Men at Work. What's his name? What's that band that was before?
Well, Dramarama played that night.
Dramarama, but after Dramarama. Men with the Hats.
Men Without Hats. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Safety Dance. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome.
Right. That brought me back into my years as a kid, you know, because when you're I would say between 8 to about 16, those 8 years, you're going to be highly influenced by the music that you so choose to listen to.
Yeah.
It becomes a voice that will resonate for your life on how you think and how you feel, how you love, how you rebel. You know, hence Dramarama, right?
Yeah.
Give you anything, you know. The joy of telecommunications, right? You really connect with that.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can express myself in such a way. This year alone, there are 2 really big concerts that I went to. Let's talk about the first one. The first was the Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah, you went.
I'm working on another feature film next year, and so the director and the producer were like, "Hey, you want to go to a Taylor Swift concert?" I said, "Sure." And I'm like, oh, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, you know, we're all going to be sitting like way at the top, but let me have this experience. Yeah, we're sitting on the 3rd row. Right
wow.
I went, oh my god! I think we were like
full Swiftie, baby.
Yeah, we were like 1 of 10 guys out of like 75,000 girls. So,
wow.
Just the performance and how much Taylor Swift can carry that stage for such amount of time.
Yeah.
Perform her music to that level.
That's power.
That intensity. that was dynamic to take in. So
Yeah.
I can't say I became a
You're
Swift
Swifty.
a Swiftie. So
Yeah.
so that was cool. So and then when I got on, I had to fly the next day to I think to the East Coast. I was wearing my Swifty T-shirt, and there was
Oh,
a dad and his daughter. I think they're going back to New York, and she had her Swifty shirt, and I was like, "Hey, you're a Swifty?" She's like, "Hey, you're a Swifty too." Wait a minute, are you Pedro? I'm like, she's like 10.
oh, that's
I go,
so
"Yes, I am." She's like, "Oh my God, we're Swifties." I go, "Yeah."
twins.
So that was wonderful to experience. But my greatest passion is a band that I truly love. It's Depeche Mode from
Oh
David
yeah.
and Martin Gore. These guys, and all the rest of the bandmates. They were uh, because I've been a fan since I don't know, since five.
Yeah.
It's to be able to hear all those songs that they play throughout the decades of time and connect to it in such a way where it becomes resounding,
Yeah.
and you feel the mastery of performing on stage to such a crowd, and moving them so. The vocals that David Gahan does, as well as Martin Gore. When Martin Gore goes up on stage and he sings, Question of Lust, or he sings any song, you're like, you cannot help but become affected by it.
Yeah.
I carry that with me, in my life, and say and remind myself that as artists, this is what artistry is. This is the mastery. If for us, it's because it's a practice that we do every day. It becomes a part of what we do. It's in our nature. It's in our blood.
Yeah.
But people who don't practice that, it becomes profound
Yeah.
and magical. And we can move people like that. And I'm like, oh wow, I hope that people can get that experience of me doing something
Yeah.
as an artist.
You don't take that for granted, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Some people don't see it, and that's unfortunate because you have an opportunity and you don't necessarily have to use it as a platform, but you have an opportunity. I kind of feel like we have an obligation, as entertainers. I mean, if you are in that experience where you can affect somebody in a positive way, don't squander it, that certainly don't want to take it for granted. But
Yeah.
are you and John, are you doing any more of these shows this year for the show, or did you just wrap up the tour?
This year we've done about 30 cities.
Yeah,
So,
that's a lot.
And next year I think we're doing about 35 to 40 cities alone.
How do people find out about where you're going to perform?
I think you could go online, and we're really trying to do that, and it's amazing when we do the Napoleon Dynamite tour, because we see people who are dressed as the characters.
Yeah.
And there's like I said, some of the theaters have llamas, and
That's so great.
we put them on stage, and everybody has a great time. And it's a film that families can sit together and watch and enjoy.
Yeah.
So, and I know I think the studios want to do something because it's going to be the 20th anniversary. So, and for us,
That's crazy, isn't it?
the 35 to 40 cities next year. And on top of that, I'm doing the DJ tour as well, and I'm going to be hitting about 25 cities.
Wow.
So and I got 2 films to do, and so it's like, yeah, I try to find moments where I can sleep.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm with you. Really. I mean, the thing is, it's feast or famine in the industry we're in, right? So when there's time to work, man, you'll sleep when we're dead, right? But I mean, if you're doing what you love, then you can go without sleep and feel okay about it for the most part, just to avoid being sick. That's the part, right? You talked about loading. Yeah, you got your vitamins. You're, like I have traveled so much internationally this year, and dude, I don't want to jinx myself. Knock on wood. I've never gotten COVID. I've had my vaccinations. I do all that. I pound vitamins.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get sick, but I also don't want to miss out on anything, so I want to experience every ounce of life I can possibly get. And that means fatigue. But I was asking you about the touring. I want people to know how they can find out about stuff. I've got your Instagram and your threads down here, at thereal.efrenramirez. At thereal.efrenramirez. That's where your Instagram handle is. That's your threads. They could find you online, and I'm sure some of your upcoming stuff you'll post there.
Yeah, they're I'll get on Instagram every once in a while, but they're from Twitter feed to Threads to the Facebook or Facebook, what all the platforms. It, it's just it becomes time consuming,
Yeah.
and I try to I mean my assistant, to my publicist, to a couple of friends who really run all that, and they try to post as much as possible. They're like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, and so I try to give them as much as possible so that in turn I could just focus on what I
Yeah.
can create next. But it's just so much, and I I again, I'm utterly grateful because I know next year, like I said, I'm doing Canada, but I'm also going to be going to Europe, and I go, okay, I don't know how bad, I don't know how you guys do it, because you're like just you travel all over the world, and it sometimes can become overwhelming,
Sure. It does.
but like the work that I do, when I'm living in a character's world, it's such a private moment for me, and you never want to reveal any secrets that the character is going through, and you just truly live in that moment so new moments can come up. um but when I'm doing the tour like Napoleon Dynamite, or as a DJ, it's the exact opposite. It's a public world,
Yeah.
and you're really connected with that large energy, and you reciprocate that on stage. And for me, I'm grateful to be able to do the tour with John Grise, and with John Heater. I mean, these guys, John Grise is on White Lotus, and you see, he got the Screen Actors Guild Award, for that show with Jennifer
Yeah.
Coolidge. And it's like, and he's such an amazing actor. And John Heater is a force to be reckoned with, because he's so creative on all
And-
on what he does. So for me, being with these guys, they're my brothers, and
Yeah.
we not only do the tour, but we talk about the work, we talk about family life. And someday, perhaps, I'll get married, have 2 kids, and
Yeah.
a dog and a cat. Cool.
Is it? Yeah. Is that an aspiration?
Come.
Yeah.
I take my time.
Yeah.
So for now, I have my cat and me, my
Nice.
black
Yeah.
cat, Houdini, who's roaming around, probably terrorizing lizards.
Cats, they can handle you being gone for a while. That's kind of nice. I've got my pug with his purple mohawk. Edgar Allan Pug doesn't do well with me being gone very often. So. But I was asking about how people find out, because I've capitalized a lot of your time tonight, and you've been doing press nonstop. Plus, we're in the middle of an election season, and people I know are actively writing you in.
Yeah.
They're voting for you right now. You're voting for Efren. So
Yeah, the last election, I think it was over 16 million people voted for Pedro.
Oh
And
my!
I was like, what?
Oh my God!
They go, you should really run. I go, I don't want to be shot.
Most countries in the world, you'd right now you'd be acting president. That's fantastic. I got to tell you, bro, that I'm going to crash one of these tour dates this next year. I want to find the three of you, and you, Uncle Rico, and Napoleon, and just watch you reenact your thing. If somebody brings a llama and serves up tots, then we're really going to have a party. But I'm so grateful that you came up and said, hey, at that event, Pershing Square, because since I've gotten to know you a bit, I'm not only a fan of your acting, but I think you're just a really incredible human being, man. So I thank you for really doing me a solid by representing well at the Sands. Me vouching for you, you made me look like a hero, because everybody that went and hung with you, they're like, this is the coolest dude on the planet, man. So yeah, I'm glad it worked for you and for them. And I hope to get more hang time with you, brother. So people need to go out. They need to see. You said just released this last week. We got his.
If they like horror, it's Satanic Hispanics, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
But the action thriller is called Do Justice.
Do Justice, and this is the Seattle PD detective with a real emotional struggle right there. I can't wait to see that, man. Do Justice, Satanic Hispanics. We've got Efren Ramirez. he'll be DJing a party near you, or a rave near you, with a huge tequila bottle on his head. Thank you so much for spending the time, man. If you guys got here late, go back to the beginning of this thing. This dude's got nuggets of wisdom that I feel like are very valuable. Stay tuned. Subscribe to this channel. Like it. Efren, thank you so much, brother. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. You have any good plans?
Happy Thanksgiving, my family. Yeah, I'm gonna spend time with some of my family. I gotta go because I have 5 brothers all together.
5.
So,
oh my God.
So I'll be going back. I'll be bouncing back and forth, and I need to be really fit for this next picture that I gotta do. So but turkey's not helping me.
Yeah, man. Well,
I'm gonna look like a big turkey on film.
you got to do it, man. That's good. Well, have a great time with your family, brother, and thank you for spending time with us too. Have a beautiful weekend, and I look forward to catching you soon. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, my family. Happy Thanksgiving. Don't turn into a turkey.
That's right. That's right.